Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I have for you the Bridgeford Foods tip of the month, and it has to do with a question I get all of the time. Specifically, it is, when do you throw a buzzbait versus a Choppo style bait? You know, they're very, very similar in that they both are basically creating a commotion on the surface through straight retrieve and are phenomenal topwaters. They generate lots of strikes, and lots of big fish will eat both of these baits. So the question is, when do you throw one versus the other? And I've got a couple of very specific scenarios where I like a buzzbait or a Choppo versus the other. And it's pretty straightforward. Otherwise, they're pretty interchangeable in my opinion. So the first is, if I am fishing dirty water, I almost always go with a buzzbait. I believe that the chirping sound that a buzzbait makes, that kind of that metal on metal squeak, will generate better bites in dirty water than a Choppo will. On the reverse side of that, the Choppo in clear water, I think, is a better bait than the buzzbait. The Choppo, to me, is a much more natural presentation. It has more of the shad silhouette, and because of that, I would rather throw this in clear water. So that's the number one thing, clear water versus dirty water. The other has to do with the structure that I'm fishing. If I'm fishing around lots of wood, lots of weeds, and lots of snags, the buzzbait, I think, is a better choice because it's more weedless. You can work this in and around wood, through pads, through some grass, assuming it's not going to get tangled in the blade, but that's going to get tangled, you know, in the Choppo blade either way. But if I need to work a bait through heavy cover, the buzzbait is a better choice. On the opposite side of that, again, if I'm fishing relatively open water or, you know, structureless water, I would much rather go with the Choppo. I think that this gives me better hookups and allows me to cover water just as efficiently as a buzzbait, but I'd again rather use it in open water just because I think I get better strikes and better hookups with the multiple hooks on it. So those are the two main differences as to when I want to throw a Choppo versus a buzzbait. The last thing that I'm going to point out, during the spring when fish are on beds, I prefer to go with a Choppo. And that single-handedly has to do with the fact that I can stop this and the bait will stay in place. It will float there, and I can then work it almost as a popper or a twitch bait, and I can give it short strokes just to create some commotion, but keep the bait in an area where I think there may be a bed. Oftentimes, topwaters are really underutilized as a bed fishing bait, and if you can keep a bait hovered above those fish on a bed, you can generate them to strike. And I can do that with a Choppo versus a buzzbait. You know, this is a great bait for keeping anytime you're moving the bait across the surface, but I can't stop this bait and keep it in place above a spawning fish. So if it's during the spawn and I'm fishing areas where I think there are lots of fish on beds, I will go with the Choppo over the buzzbait. So those are the differences, guys. Otherwise, I think they're a pretty interchangeable bait choice. They both do really similar things. It just comes down to a couple of differences as to when I choose the Choppo over a buzzbait. So let me know, guys, if you disagree with it. Leave a comment. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. If there's specific circumstances as to when you choose a Choppo over a buzzbait, let me know. I'd love to hear it. Thanks for watching.